yes. Welcome to Andrea Loves Everybody. This is a podcast about love, and today I'm joined by Anna Valenzuela.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Hi, Andrea. Hello.
Hi. I'm so excited.
Oh my gosh, I'm very excited. I refer to you as Hollywood's new nice girl. I love it. I love
that's
it.
so nice.
It's adorable. I enjoy it.
So I like to start this podcast by telling everyone something that I love about them. Anna is kind of like LA's, you're like a scene mom, you know, like you definitely like,
I'm the OG scene mom.
you are the OG scene mom. You're just like, come here, honey. Like you see an injured baby in the corner. You're like, you just need a hug and a juice box. Let's talk about your feelings. Like you just have like a very like nurturing energy, and you're always kind of like looking out for other people, which is just like so nice to see in a comedy community.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I actually have toned that back in the last couple of months.
For your own personal sense of wellness?
My sense of, my sanity, actually.
Yeah, that's good for you.
Yeah, my therapist referred to it as, how many people do you need to suckle on your teat? And I was like, Jesus. She was like, you just got to hit them off. You got to hit them off. Those aren't your kids. Hit them off. And I was like, damn. So
like when the mom bird pushes the baby birds out of the nest and they like can clearly fly, but they still like do that crying thing.
Oh yeah, that's a great description of my last year. It was like all of a sudden I woke up one day and I was like, I'm not your mom, and I just started like gladiator kicking kids into just like full on, this is Sparta, get the fuck out of
We're
this
the
nest.
same age. I'm not your mother.
I am not your mother. Call your mom. But no, I appreciate that because I do.
It's hard to balance because you do want to like help others, but then also be like, I'm also get sick and tired. And I need to take care of myself. And so like finding that sense of personal boundary is really important.
It is really important. And what you'll find is I had a 12-step sponsor break this down to me because when I first started doing comedy, I'm sure you've had this happen because you are also, what I love about you is you are also so sweet, so kind. Everybody just, I literally was like, I got to leave. Everybody's like, oh, you're leaving this party? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go do Andrea's podcast. And they were all like, oh, she's amazing. Like nice. Just so sweet. And so you give off a very similar loving vibe. I mean, you have a podcast about love.
I love love.
Love is love. Love is great. Love is great. I'm trying to talk more about like love and joy on stage. I'm trying to limit the amount of like sad talk on stage now.
Oh, it's tough.
It's really tough because where we find a lot of our humor is in the things that are sad,
that are hard,
right? That's where a lot of us develop our humor. But yeah, I've just been, you learn to sort of, my sponsor told me, she was like, when these comics, they would come up to me my first year or so, I would have these interactions that were very 12-step oriented. So people will come up to you in a 12-step program and they will say, how are you? And they'll mean it. And you can tell that they mean it. Aww. And then you'll respond with how you really are. And in comedy, when you do that, the response is usually like, oh my God, I haven't it's like suddenly the first meaningful interaction they've had maybe in
instead
weeks.
Of like good set bye, they just leave. Yeah.
So I would get into this place where people would just tell me everything,
all of their darkness.
You have had this experience,
the darkness of others,
exactly,
in addition to your own darkness.
Exactly, it was weighing me down. So my sponsor would break it down like this. She'd be like, here's the difference. A friend is somebody, when you ask them how they're doing and then they tell you how they're doing, they won't just walk away. They'll also
listen to how you're doing.
Exactly, it'll be a reciprocal conversation. Yes. So keep a running total in your brain of the kind of people that have complete interactions with you, and the ones that do not have complete interactions with you, those are acquaintances. And the next time you approach them, you go, hi, how you doing? Oh, or not even how you doing. See, I'm so compulsive. I'm like, how you doing? You know? And I was like, just walk up and be like, oh, hey, cool. See you later. And just keep it real brief. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm bad at it, but I try.
I think that's a good thing to learn because like you can care about other people, but it is exhausting to do it without reciprocity. All the time, constantly.
Yeah, exactly. You got to be like, you got to have some balance, and you got to know who's in your, who's like in your spiritual corner, like the kind of people that you can call when you're like when shit's real bad and it isn't gonna throw them off. And you find that out really quickly. Like the minute we were talking about how I had too many pans in my oven earlier. I had surgery surgery like a year ago, and because my uterus was like an oven where you store all your pots and pans. There was just a bunch of extra shit in there that needed to go, and otherwise you can't cook a baby in there. So I go ahead and I get that surgery, and it was interesting how in comedy, obviously, so many people are so warm and so kind and so accepting, and then there were some relationships that I had placed a lot of energy in, and like a lot of like I thought like, oh, these are my ride or dies, and it didn't work out that way, which is fine. You know, it's good to know. It's good to know it now.
It's hard.
But it is hard.
Because then you feel like, oh, I'm losing this person at a time when I actually really needed support and care.
Yeah. Well, that's the fun thing about I don't blame them, because I had been, when you present yourself is everyone's mama. When mamas have hard times, it's hard for their kids to adjust, right?
Yeah, that's something so
it was the way I presented myself.
For me, that's
conducive to supportive behavior.
That's a real red flag for me when I'm dating someone too, is when they're weird, when they still expect their mom to be their mom. If that makes sense.
Interesting. So what do you mean?
So like I had he was a friend, you know, I wasn't like trying to date him, but I remember like me and my boyfriend at the time went to like help him, and we were like bringing something back to his family's home. And so like we all woke up in the morning, and he was like, Mom, I want pancakes for breakfast. And his mom was like, honey, I have to take your sister to cheerleading. And we were like adults at that point. Like I lived in my own apartment with someone. Like he had a girlfriend. Like, and I was like, are you asking your mother to cook you breakfast right now? Like,
if you fucking, you can't ask your mom to make you pancakes.
Yeah, like,
you can ask your girlfriend to make you pancakes.
Right. But I was like, if I was your girlfriend, I would also be like,
I guess
this is the time where you make your mom pancakes because she has shit to do.
Absolutely.
And you have nothing planned in your day. So I was like, you would be a nightmare to date. Like I can't imagine someone dating that, you know? So like to me, that's like, for me, like when I go to my parents' house, like my mom, since I was very young, is just like, I have a job. And that's to keep you alive. And I have to go to it. So you need to cook your own breakfast. You know, like she would cook for us and like she would try to do those mom things, but she was just busy. So like from an early age, like I packed my own lunch, and I like the things I can do to take care of myself, I did. So like if I meet someone and they like are still looking for that kind of like to be taken care of in ways that they should be capable of, I'm like, I can't.
That's very balanced. That's very balanced. That's very good. That's very good.
It's more of just like when I first got to college, I was so baffled at how many people couldn't take care of themselves.
Yeah. When I first started working in drug and alcohol treatment, I was baffled by how many people didn't know how to do their laundry.
Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. Because so part of the reason you're here is we were talking at a party.
Yes.
And I opened up so much to you.
We found it's very funny to like see somebody who's like a mirror of the thing that like I was like, oh, people open. I could tell it immediately. I was like, oh, you're the person everybody opens up to. It was so funny. It was like I got really sick and had to take a step back, and you moved to town. It was perfect.
Yep, it was right in time.
So no, that's so great.
We bonded so much about that. But so you both have this really unique experience where you watched your parents go through 12-step programs, then went through 12-step programs yourself. And now what is your role? You mentor people?
I used to, I've actually been out of it for about a year, but I worked in drug and alcohol treatment from 2007 to 2017. There was a brief break where I worked with folks with adults with autism, which was tricky. Super fun.
Wait, so they're adults with autism, they also have alcoholism?
Well, what happened was, so I had been working in drug and alcohol treatment, which is kind of like, I call it my stripping. I can always go back to it because I have so much experience in the field. And I got in this golden time when you didn't have to have a license to do techs, to be like a tech. So it's like a psych tech, but all you had to have was like a little bit of sobriety or clean time, a working knowledge of the steps, and a clean driving record. I kid you not. And I worked at a place for adolescents. My first job was at a place called Visions Adolescent Treatment Center. It was out in Malibu. And it was for adolescents, but it was not just adolescents. adolescence. It was adolescence of the extremely rich and famous.
Oh,
So
wow.
I have a ton of stories that I would love to tell on stage about like famous people and like their kids, and like driving past billboards one day and being like, I really recognize that new actress, and like calling up an old boss and being like, I keep driving by this billboard, and they're like, yeah, you've strip searched her. And like, so like I've had like a bunch of like weird experiences. And I did all that. And then when I worked with folks with autism, it was because I had had clients who were addicted to specifically meth, which is a real intense one, like addicted to meth, who were also Asperger's. And so in that situation, so I saw this listing. I was like, I got to get out of working in treatment because it's very intense. It's the emotional equivalent, if you're a child of an alcoholic, it's the emotional equivalent of just running into the burning building every single day.
I can save you.
I can save you. I can save everybody.
Everything is on fire.
This will bring my parents back, right? You just keep doing that, and it never. And what you find is that eventually, because you have to have, if you work in a care field and you're listening to this, please do self-care, yoga, Al-Anon, adult children of alcoholics, therapy, double, triple up on your self-care, because what you give during the day, you don't realize how much you're giving. You don't realize.
And you can emotionally bankrupt yourself.
Completely. Yeah. And I had a really bad habit of doing that, even getting into comedy. And so I worked in that field, then I took a break. I worked with folks with autism, not necessarily drug addicted, which was super fun. And that was my 5-year plan. And then I got laid off. I was the first of 19 people to get laid off because I didn't have a master's degree. I had a job that required a master's degree. They were like, how did you get this job? And I was like, well, I worked real hard from the bottom. That's what I did. Isn't that a thing you could
the
still
American
do?
way.
Yeah, the American way. They were like, no, you can't do that. And so so I got 86 out of that, and then I got really depressed and started going to a lot of comedy shows. I was at a party with a friend of mine, and she said, I really like stand-up comedy. And I was like, me too. And she was like, what kind of stand-up comedy? Because when you talk to somebody and they're like, I really like stand-up comedy, and then you listen to their tastes and you're like, oh no.
I don't like that stand-up. Yeah.
Yeah. The puppet guy, huh? Okay. Which, by the way, I hear he's a gem. He's a gem of a man. So I definitely we started going to shows obsessively because I was on unemployment. We'd go like 5 days a week. She was like, I'm balling right now because I've got a real good job. I'm getting ready to retire.
Yeah.
And we would go to like 5 days a week. And then finally I was at a comedy club, and I was at the Comedy Store, and I complimented a comedian. I said, you were really funny. And he said, you must be a comic. I said, no, I'm not. And he said, yes, you are. And I said, no, I'm not. And he said, only comedians think I'm funny. You're a comic. And I was like, okay. And then everywhere I went after that, I would be at the grocery store, and the clerk would be like, did I see you on TV? You're a comedian, right? Or did it would be this.
What?
It happened for months.
You had a famous face before you were famous.
It's just the nose, the nose and the hair. It's like a combination. I actually used to have, when I worked at the treatment center, the kids would be like, when I was skinnier, they would be like, you look like Sarah Silverman, right?
Oh.
So I just look like a little Latina Sarah Silverman when I'm skinny.
That's so funny.
So they, so that was going on. And then finally a bunch of my friends were like, please go to this open mic. And they looked it up, and it was in Long Beach. And I started going to that open mic a month later because I had a job and I looked halfway responsible. They told me to host it, and I was hosting it.
That's so nice.
So yeah, it was just this.
Were you living in Long Beach at the time?
I was living in Long Beach at the time, and I came up in comedy that way. So I say all that to say, that's what is sort of led my journey to where it was. But then I quit. I was working in a rehab. Well, not a rehab. I was working at a sober house. I moved up to LA eventually. Because when I do everything, it's addictively, and it's super extreme because that's all I've been.
Put all your heart and soul into that thing.
All my heart and soul into that thing. And so naturally my job was like, this might not be the best place for you. Cause I was falling asleep on calls, and I was sitting at my desk, writing bits, and they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, working on reports.
I'm definitely having a tough time with that with my job right now, is finding a way to balance. I had to institute, I can't be out past midnight because otherwise I can't function the next day. So that's why I haven't been going to roast battle as much. And there's certain shows that I just have to be I have to leave after my set because I need to go to work tomorrow.
You're a grown up. Yeah, it's okay to be a grown up. It's totally okay to be a grown up. And the great thing about Roast Battle is they put it on 24 hours on the Periscope,
Totally.
so you can listen to it on the way to work.
Exactly.
That's what I used to do. If I missed, I would just listen to it on the way to work or listen to it in my car like it was a podcast.
Yeah.
And then that was it, because honestly, the audio of it is just because when you're watching it on the Periscope, you're not really. There's some visual jokes,
Yeah,
but
it's mostly audio.
It's mostly audio.
for sure.
So yeah, you can just catch up with it in the morning. If you're one of those people that like, I definitely was one of those people that was like, I'm in the cult of Roast Battle. I was definitely like, give me my robe. I look like it and then one day I was like, same thing. I'm like, I have to function. I have to work.
Sleep. Yeah,
I have to sleep.
I have to go to work.
Yeah, but it worked out.
Sucks.
It worked out ideal because when I worked at the sober house, I would go in on Friday night. I would leave on Sunday night, so it was like a live-in sitch, and then I would have all week off to just party like it's 1999 at Mike's.
That's amazing.
And so I would do like 4 or 5 mics a night. Like I would wake up, go to the gym, eat breakfast, go do mics.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was really fun. I mean, it was when the best thing about comedy is once you do that and you get really good at the thing, then you have to start balancing because you've got now more other stuff to do. You've got podcasts you have to edit. You have scripts you have to write. You have shoots you have to do. There's all these like additional cool things that show up in your life.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That are super fun that you don't want to say no to, but you also have to. I have to go to work in the morning.
You have to go to work in the morning.
How do I schedule all this?
Exactly. Your brain, and then your brain will tell you, but because you're not at everything all the time, you're a piece of shit. And you're like, shut up, brain, you're wrong. So
how do you, and that comes back to that space in your heart and life to take care of other people.
yeah.
Is so when you're doing all the things, you can't take care of everyone too.
Yeah, I mean that's where I fall into a thing where I fall out of balance with that. Where I got to a point where I was maybe taking care of other people way too much, and then not taking care of myself enough. And it's in subtle ways. So I'm sure you've had this happen where you're on your way to do something, and you get a text message from your friend, and it's like, "Mommy, my ass is falling off. I don't know how to feel. Please fix this." And then you're like, okay, and you try to help, and then before you know it, you look up and you're like, fuck, I missed the thing I wanted to go to.
Yeah, I've done that. I've started just sometimes just being like, I can't talk right now. I have to go do a thing.
Exactly. Just being like, hey, boo, I love you. Maybe we can call and talk about this later.
Yeah.
Or that's another thing. It's like, if it's one thing that I think comedians don't do very well, but also just humans in general, if you're going through a super emotional thing, you should probably call.
Yes.
Because that's
I hate texting.
Way faster than a crazy text message, like a super long text message, Well,
and I feel the thing that happens though too is I feel like I don't communicate well via text either. Because it's time consuming and it interrupts my thought pattern in a way that is like, I can't text and also get dressed and get ready and do all the things that I need to do to keep my life moving in the way that it was moving. So if you call me, I'm happy to talk to you.
Yeah.
But like sometimes
you can put an earbud in, shove that phone in the bra, put your eye makeup on. It's great.
Totally. Or like I can put you on speaker, I can drive somewhere, but I can't text you while I'm driving. So that's something or I can't, and that's another thing is like texting people while I'm at work. I've started putting people on mute while I'm at work so that I don't get messages all day.
You know what I started doing? You want to take it to the next level?
Yeah?
You want to really take control of your time?
Do it.
Take the social media off your phone. All of it.
Oh, man.
Even the gram. Take it off.
My issue with that is for promotional stuff.
Later.
But how do you
do it? I give myself 30 minutes a day.
How do you update Instagram from your computer? Can you do that?
You can't. I haven't been on Instagram in a real long time.
Okay.
And I know and Hollywood's such a fucking backwards place because they're like,
it's so much
how many Instagram followers do you have? It's like, well, if you want me to be a productive comedian, maybe I do have, enough. I have enough. That's what,
Yeah.
but at the same time, like right now I'm taking just a little break from it. And I love the gram. Don't get me wrong. But it just, I mean, I get FOMO. You're a very social person. You're as social as I am.
I don't feel like I am.
Really?
I need a lot of alone time. Yeah.
Well, you got to recharge.
Yeah. So something I
Yeah.
do, like last night, I was going to go to some parties and instead I just laid down.
Ooh, what did you do?
I hurt my back a little bit. And
no.
so I did a CBD bubble bath.
Oh, hey, girl.
And then I took some ibuprofen.
Bubble bath. I rock that CBD. That's even as a sober person, trust me, you will not get high. It's what I used after my surgery.
Nice. It kind of like numbed, like my whole body was kind of hurting a little bit, and it just kind of like toned it out. I like tried to work the knot out of my back. I like talked to a friend, and then I went to bed by 11 p.m. And then I woke up this morning feeling pretty decent. Like I've started doing that. I literally have started scheduling nights where I'm just like, I don't want to go out tonight. Yeah. Even though there's parties, even though there's friends, even though there's things.
See, I get FOMO so bad.
I know, me too.
I get FOMO so bad.
I miss that party. But then if I don't look at my social media, it's not bad.
That's why I took it off my phone.
I don't even know I missed it.
It completely took out the FOMO. Like I was just like, oh, wait a minute. Because you get on social media, and especially as in an entertainment job, it can give you the impression that you're not doing enough.
That is, yeah, me too. And I was starting to get really depressed by looking at my social media. And there's certain people on my social media that I just stopped following. Yeah. Because I was getting such wicked FOMO, or like, oh, I don't think they like me, or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was just like,
and you probably really like those people.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at them on social media, you're like, this bitch gets all the bookings.
Yeah. And then they're just like, then you talk to them, they're like, I'm not doing enough. And like, no one's doing enough. Like, yeah, it has to just be enough.
Last week I was talking to my homeboy, and I told him, I was like, yeah, I didn't really do enough today. And he was like, well, what did you do? And I was like, well, I woke up, I went to the gym, and then I wrote some stuff for a packet, and then I finished up a podcast editing, and now I'm on my way to go do a show. And he was like, bitch, you did everything today. And I was like, oh. He was like, I just had to say it out loud.
Yeah. That's something that I've started trying to do too, is just like take stock. So like I write a list, and then I take stock. What did you do today? Oh, I applied for this thing. I spent this much time writing. Like I did things.
You have to total up the wins.
Yeah,
I love that.
Totally.
In this podcast about love. I love that.
It's hard. Self-love is important.
I know.
So that you have energy to give to other people.
Right? I know, especially because I know when we did talk, it was like we both kind of have like chaos families.
Yeah.
And
where it's like, if there's yelling, that's love, right? And you're like, but what if we?
Oh my God. So my therapist, because it's so funny because I've had some therapists be like, you're codependent, you're this, you're that. This one therapist, I just started with a new therapist, and she's amazing. She deals with people with anxiety. And I do have a generalized anxiety disorder. Be honest, who doesn't? We all have it.
Especially if you like, the way that I think of it is, if your formative years are chaotic and terrifying at all times, you're gonna be a little anxious.
Yeah, you're gonna be a little wound up. You're gonna be like that dog that can't hear fireworks.
Right.
You're gonna be like, ah! So she is having me read this book, which it's so nice that you did that bubble bath experience. And because I have my day job, I'll do a lot of driving. I've been listening to it. It is called The Body Keeps Score. And it's all about how your body stores trauma. So even if you do talk therapy and you do, which I've been very successful with, and even if you do medication intervention, which I've tried in the past, what will happen is the body has stored the trauma. So eventually in 3 or 4 years, which is my time schedule, it could be more for others, you'll have incremental improvements, and you'll be able to achieve some great things, like start a comedy career and like live your life and develop all these beautiful relationships. And then your body will be like, hey bitch, remember me? You've got a whole bunch of anxiety stored in here. And then it'll start fucking with you.
And you'll have a kind of a breakdown.
You have I have the occasional panic attack, which is the emotional equivalent. Who hasn't, right? It's the emotional equivalent of like getting on a roller coaster, and like I don't even realize I've been riding it until suddenly it stops, and I'm like, oh, oops.
For me, the sleep thing is so vital for that.
Hungry, angry, lonely, tired.
Yeah.
Pulse.
Yep, all those things. Mm-hmm. Exactly. I'm like, oh, I'm being a bitch because I'm hungry. Oh, I'm crying all day because I'm so tired.
So tired.
And I just want to lay down, and I don't care about anything.
And PMS too.
Yep, totally. That's a real thing.
PMS does not, here's the deal. if a woman wants to run for office or be in the military or whatever, it's not going to prevent her from doing her job. It is going to mean that a couple of days a month, she's a little bit of a bitch about it. And that's okay because bitches get shit done. That's really what it's about.
So much.
So it's just like all of a sudden you're a little less nice about it, but you can still get your job done.
Oh, yeah.
And you just need to take a nap. That's really, that's really what it is.
Hey, we got to get this shit done. I'm going to take a nap, but y'all, I'm being the boss. Just go do it. Okay, bye.
Did you know that when we met, I had my period for 300 days?
Oh my God.
That was right in the middle of the period time.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I'm starting to talk about it on stage. It's proof that I'm a witch because I did not die. I did not die. I definitely lived that period life.
That is so impressive.
Thank you. You know what? Thank you for saying it like that. It's mostly horrifying. When I say it on stage, audiences go, one woman went, "Oh my fucking God." And I was like, "Yep, I'm here to tell the tale." If you have a period for over 10 days, see a doctor.
Did you tell a doctor before day 300? When did you go to the doctor?
You know what it was is I had already super long ones for a while. And I used to tweet jokes about it. I'd be like, have you ever had a period so bad you bled through your car seat? And I was like, I would just say stupid shit about it, but it was really happening. And then I would go to, I got an IUD and my body was just like, fuck you. And it was like, how dare you add any more hormones to this nightmare? And they took the IUD out and I was like, it should get better. And then they were like, fuck you, it's not getting better. And so that's how that happened.
And that's how they found the fibroids?
That's how they found the pots and pans.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's how it happened. But it's all love. It's all good. It's all gone now.
Oh, wow. How long has it been since?
I had it done in November and I was cleared as healthy in January. So I'm doing good. I'm on the upswing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so great.
Yeah. I know, I'm sorry. It's like a love podcast.
It is.
Like, your body will fall apart. So love it while you got it.
But I mean, I think we forget sometimes how much of our emotional state is dependent on how our body is doing.
Yes.
And I think that's something that we have to be aware of and also give leniency to ourselves and each other about hey, this person's going through a rough time. Give them a break,
Yeah.
Or their body is in a ton of pain or, all that stuff.
Well, and I'm an expert at compartmentalizing physical pain.
Right.
I used to.
A lot of women are.
Yeah, we all are for sure. But I used to teach karate, so I'm really good at I'm really good at taking a punch, for real. And so I had to tell my doctors that I really will not register the amount of pain that I'm actually in. And so that's part of that process of healing and getting to a point where you can manage your anxiety, so you can feel love, you can feel joy, you can feel everything as much as you want to feel it. Because I think that's what most people are experiencing. At least my experience of mental health stuff is that just gets in the way of the experience of life, and life is really beautiful.
It's pretty great.
Life
I'm
is
a fan.
It's a beautiful experience. You get to earlier today, I got to watch a 1-year-old celebrate being one. That's pretty
so
dope.
Cute.
You know what I mean? He's so cute. He's just so cute. It was so funny. I was like, oh my God, I'm running late. And everybody was like, it's fine. It's Andrea. She'll understand.
Yeah,
she's so cute. So, but the experience of it, when you can manage it, you can better experience. But also that's where creativity thrives. So a lot of times when in the freedom to play and the freedom to experience joy. And so it becomes a little bit of a bummer. It shows in mics when you hear over and over comedians talking about how sad they are, because what I'm hearing is over and over the experience of I'm not able to experience joy. I'm not able to experience creativity and play.
Well, I think that especially when you start doing comedy, the weird thing about comedy is we start doing comedy because it's fun.
Yes.
Right? Because it's supposed to be fun.
It's just like drugs.
It is.
Drugs are fun the first time you do it.
They're supposed to be fun.
So fun until they're not fun.
Well, and then what happens is people are like, oh, this is so fun. I want to do this all the time. Why am I not doing this all the time? What do I need to do this all the time? And then we're like, I'll make it my career. And then you put all of your self-worth into success at having fun. And then it's not really fun anymore.
Yeah. That's why you got to have your sad jams every once in a while.
Yeah.
You got to stay home, take a bubble bath, watch a show.
Or also just like do things that aren't comedy and experience real joy outside of the success of having a good set or the success of, oh, I've achieved this thing. This person likes me. Dave Chappelle talked to me, whatever. Like all these ways that we kind of like.
We try to quantify. Comedians are also very funny because they're trying to quantify and stratify our business, which is just an arbitrary mosh pit. Like it's literally right place, right time most of the time. And so it's this idea of like,
I'm not working hard enough. I'm not doing that. And then it becomes stressful.
It's
and then
truly,
not fun.
It's a terrifying thought, but it's not a meritocracy. If it was a meritocracy, most of us would have TV deals.
Right.
Yeah.
And some of the people that do have TV deals wouldn't. But you
can't
judge. It's not
in our control.
No, not at all.
I know, which is hard, but lovely too.
Yeah.
Well, like the acceptance of understanding it's not in one's control is freeing.
That is nice. Yeah. Because then it reduces your responsibility.
Yeah.
I think that's why a lot of people believe in God.
Oh, definitely. Or at least some kind of higher power situation.
It's like, it's not mine.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone through phases where I have my atheist feels, where I have my spiritual feels.
I totally get that. I'm more agnostic-y. I'm like, I don't really know. I don't have
I choose
answers.
to believe the better story. I do know that my higher power has a wicked sense of humor. It's very funny. I know that I should not pray for anything specific in my life, but I do have like a practice of prayer and meditation because that's what 12-step programs teach you to do.
Does that make you feel centered and whole?
On a good day, hell yeah.
Okay.
When I'm like in it, oh my God, it's so great. But on a bad day, it's like a thing that you do and then you try, okay, well, that didn't really work. What's the next thing? Okay, I'll go to a meeting and then, maybe I'll call my therapist. And then you're like, okay, well, definitely called my sponsor already. Maybe I need to go hang with a friend. Or maybe I need to sit with this cat and watch Queer Eye for the next like 3 hours.
Sandwiches? Yes.
Sandwiches. See, so my roommate's cat is so fat. He peed in a laundry hamper today, so I'm now calling him Pee Demon, and he cannot hang out in my room until Pee Demon learns. It was so funny. I like took the towel, I like put it on his little face. I was like, be a dog about it. Smell your shame. Smell your
Cats
shame.
Have no shame.
And he just sort of hung out there and then he laid down and Stuart was like, it looks like he's just decided the shame is his new life now. I was like, oh no.
So speaking of Stuart.
Oh yeah, I have a boyfriend.
You have a boyfriend.
I found love in all this madness.
Love. It's so great. I kind of want to talk a little bit about how long have you guys been dating? We've
been together, oh man, it was such a whirlwind. We've been together for a little over, wait a minute. So I'm trying to remember the timeline. August 2016.
Aw, so almost 2 years
Almost 2 years.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, it was really cute.
I am wondering, because you guys are both comedians.
Yeah.
That's a tricky thing. That's tricky territory sometimes. But it's hard not to date comics.
Oh my God, yes. Okay, all right. First off, comedians are so you first start coming around and comedians will tell you straight to your face. It's such a double-edged sword if you're a woman because they're just be liberated and be strong and be independent. But if you fuck any comic, I'll never take you seriously. Is literally what. Yeah, and it's like, don't date the comedians. But also, fuck me if you're going to fuck a comic, fuck me for sure.
Right. Yes. Totally. Yes.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, wait. First off, like, don't scarlet letter every woman who fucks because women be fucking and you want those women in your life. Don't demean women who are having sex because you don't ever know when you're right place, right time. It's all chaos, not a meritocracy. It could be you.
It could be you.
It could be
Mr.
you.
Sleeps in your car. It could be.
It could be. Probably will be you, Mr. Sleeps in your car. Like how much of it? And it's such a funny thing because when you find yourself like experiencing the comedy community in a sexual way, you'll find a collection of the best and worst lays of your life. There is no in between.
Yes. They're all in or I've never been here before.
Exactly. And the ones that are really good at it are awful for you emotionally. Yep. Those are the ones where
they
you're
have
like,
practice for a reason.
Oh my, you're a dumpster fire. There is one guy that I was a friend of mine. He was like, so are you going to like date him? And I was like, no, that would be like dating my mom, who was like a raging alcoholic. I was like my mom was like a tall redhead, and I was like, that would literally just be dating my mom. Like that would be such a crazy experience.
This is a horrible choice. Yeah.
Yeah. But and I still enjoy that person. We're still great friends. But adults should be able to have those experiences if they're comfortable with it. Some people are more comfortable with living a little more. I shamed myself for a lot of years about that. And I actually have a good 12-step sponsor who was just like, girl, if I were in your position, if I wasn't married, I'd fuck every one of them. She's like, they are charming and fun. And I was like, I get it. She was like, yeah. She's like, don't be ashamed. But what happened is do you want to know how we got together, or do you want to know how we stay together?
Both. Yes.
Okay. All right. Yes. So here's what happened. It's so funny. There's like Al's in the background. Both. So I had my sort of like, so I had my collection, and they weren't all comedians.
Your collection?
My collection. I called them the fuck bench. They were people I could call and be like, hey, yo, what are you doing tonight? Because I was starting to get very sexual. I tried to date like Tinder or whatever. I tried to date for a long time. And there's no way to pitch to a banker, hey, I can only meet with you Saturday at 2 p.m. because I gotta
yell into a microphone the rest of this night.
Yes, for drink tickets. Like they don't, and you don't even drink. Like they don't understand. They don't understand that at all. So I really went out of my way, and also a lot of that online interaction for me. Some people, Jackie Cation has this beautiful joke about meeting her husband online. Some people are great at online dating.
Not good at it.
I am not good at it.
I hate it so
I'm an
much.
interpersonal. I am a eye contact, body language. I need to see you to understand. And I got to a point with Tinder where I was a real fucking gangster. So people would start messaging me, and I would be like 3 or 4 messages in, and I'd be like, if you don't intend on going on a date with me, this is officially a waste of my time.
I love you.
Yeah. You don't fucking try to get, because what they were doing what comedians were doing is they were trying to get emotional
support and
validation. They weren't actually interested in dating. If you are on a fuck app, understand that it is a fuck app. That is what it is.
Right.
It's all of those apps are adaptations of Grindr, which is literally the McDonald's of fucking. Like is OG. It is efficient. They are all use the same algorithms. They all the same programmers. All of it came out of Grindr. So understand that those apps were not designed for relationships. Those apps were designed for fucking. And if you're getting on there and trying to tell me about your sister's cousin's mama and send me pictures of your dog, that is for dating. You either take me on a date or this conversation is over.
Yeah.
Yeah. This isn't free. Like I became a real gangster about it. Like, and that kind of came from I once went on a Tinder date, and the guy got about 5 minutes into it, and he was like, I'm not feeling it. I don't even want to, let's not sit down at this restaurant. And I was like, ouch, but cool. Thank you for the honesty.
Yeah, that's so nice.
I'm going to go see a movie. See you later, buddy.
Time is, for me, especially now, time is my most valuable resource.
Oh, it's so valuable.
If you waste my fucking time, like there was a dude that like he rescheduled our date and then he was late anyway. And I was like, no. Yeah. I just left. I was like, no.
Yeah, that's why, again, I apologize for my tardiness.
No. That's totally fine.
But so I had my fuck bench. I had my fuck bench, and then I had people I hung out with that I just really enjoyed hanging out with.
Totally.
Because I remember one day I was like, man, I need to be in a relationship. And Jay Light, we were having dinner, and he was like, no, you don't. You have this. And like Keith Gary too. He was like, maybe you're just gonna be one of those like dope older ladies with like a ton of cats, and like we all come over to your house for Christmas. And it's like you don't have to have a life that's necessarily relationship focused. Although I'm very good at being a girlfriend. I was like, you don't understand. I'm so good at girlfriending.
I win girlfriend awards. I have all the girlfriend trophies.
So good at it. I am so good at it.
Olympic girlfriend athlete.
Thank you. You understand. I
totally do. I'm competitive. I'm a competitive girlfriender. I'm like, blowjobs, competitive.
Yes.
Girlfriend baking, competitive. Meet your mom, competitive. She's dead, perfect.
That was such a fun thing when Stuart was like, he's obviously, well, we'll get to that, but there was, so that's so funny. That's what I always used to tell people, because when I would be on dates, they'd be like, what about your family? And I'd be like, oh, they're super dead. And I would just like say it like that. And they would look at me and I'd be like, yeah, I'm like Batman. They're dead. They're like very dead. And if they could survive that, then they were worth a second date.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Because if they're like, well, dope, there's nobody to like, we don't have to divide the holidays, basically. I can just go hang at your place. Like, it's bonus. You don't have to buy anything weird for my mom. It's great. So I had the fuck bench, and then I had the guys I hung out with. And so it basically, if someone was like interesting at a show or something, or interesting at a mic, or just made me laugh, I'd be like, hey, do you want to like go get something to eat? And it wasn't a flirting thing. It was legitimately like, I just want to go talk to you because I have my fuck bench. I am liberated. I don't hang out with the sex idiots. That's what they're for. It's to they're there to fucking lay down some dick and get the fuck out of my house. So that's what they're for. And so it was like, okay, sex idiots over here, and friend hangs over here.
Yeah.
And one day I was at the Improv, and my boyfriend, he is where he shines. He's funny on stage, but where he is comedically his best.
Is it in the back talking shit?
It is in the back talking shit.
Oh, those are my favorites.
Especially because he has this very sweet demeanor about him. You would never expect him.
He has the same general vibe that I would say I do.
Yes.
But in a man.
Yes. He's very he's very polite. He's very kind. Like,
great manners.
Well-mannered. Yeah. And what it is. And he's also
he'll throw shade from the back.
Like a motherfucker. And he was cracking me up. And then there was like one point where somebody was trying to like throw shade at me, and I'm throwing shade back at him, and we're just like goofing around, and then it turned into this like round robin of us like making fun of this guy. And I said, and I'm just laughing, and I look at him and I go, do you want to go get pancakes? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, all right. So we're going to his and he was like, I'll drive. And I was like, well, that's weird, because first off, all of the people
you have a car?
I know. And then he was like,
no one on the fuck bench has a car.
No one on the fuck bench has a car. When you have to coordinate a bus schedule, girl, you don't know how real that is. It's so real. That was such a real observation. At least two of them I had to pick. And I wouldn't pick you up. I'm not picking you up. You're coming to my if you're coming to my house, take the fucking red line. I live close. Like, don't be crazy. Don't.
You're already getting pussy. What more do you want?
What more do you want from me? Yeah. Ugh. So we go to get pancakes, and we just kept doing that. And people would finally, it was so funny, one of the people who was actually on the fuck bench, one time he was like, you fucking Stuart? I was like, I am not. He goes, well, when you guys talk to each other, your hips face each other like you're fucking. So I just want you to be aware. And I was like, listen, fuck bench, you don't get to be jealous. And he was like, no, I'm not jealous. Good for you. And so it was like this total like we weren't realizing we were courting each other because we were like having fun. But it was also to my friend who I absolutely adore. She's actually, you want to talk about the patron saint of comedy. She moved to Wyoming. She's living in Yellowstone Park now, but her name was Caitlin. And she not only she fell in love with comedy so hard that like one time for an audition, like a door guy audition at the Comedy Store, they didn't pass the comic she felt like should have been passed. So she was like, I'm going to start my own show and book it. She is like incredible like that. And she was like, even I inherited the show, but she was so sweet. She had a budget. She was like paying comics.
Was the show?
It's our crisis comedy show down in Holy Grounds. And like, she's just such a sweetheart. I do not have a budget anymore. Don't hit me up. Because she moved.
Leave her alone.
Yeah,
okay.
She moved. But you can definitely come and do the show. Like, don't hit me up for that. But like, I can't beat you. We'll figure it out. But there was, she was so sweet. She was like, have you ever seen Stuart and Luke's show at the Improv? And I was like, no. She's like, you should really go. I was
Is
like,
that the late night show?
It's a late night show with Stuart and Luke. It's basically like, they're so sweet. They do like it's basically there's a clip of Johnny Carson having Frank Sinatra on, and Don Rickles comes out just unannounced and starts ruining the show.
Oh, but it's so funny.
It's very funny. And that's what they're trying to capture on the show, is just like, how far can you push a late night show format before it breaks? And sometimes it breaks.
That's
like,
really funny.
Yeah, it's really, really funny. And
so it starts off late night. It starts off structured, and then there's like improv, I'm assuming, or there's something.
Yeah, well, Luke just tries to ruin it. And if you know Luke Schwartz, he's already trying to ruin it anyway. That's just like his
really
deal.
Funny.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like, there's like an angel and devil vibe happening.
Yes.
Oh, I like that.
Stuart is the straight man to Luke's whatever Luke is. And so he wears a suit and the whole thing. And I showed up to the show and I was like, oh, okay, look at you.
Oh, suit.
Oh, okay, suit. And,
Okay.
and it was, we hung out after his shows a couple of times. And then one day, my friend, she said, are you trying to date Stuart? I was like, no. And she was like, well, I think you should ask him if this is just friend hangs, because it seems like both of you are developing feelings. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll ask him. And she was like, yeah, you gotta like do it tonight, or do it, make soon. Do it soon.
Before it's irreparable.
Exactly, because now it's getting weird, and everyone's noticing. So you really got to do something about it. And so, we were, and the reason why I always assumed it was just friend hangs is he would always drive to said pancake locations. He would always almost insist on paying every time, which was very sweet, but not unnecessary. But he would never unclip his seatbelt when he would let me out of the car. He would always just be like, okay, see you later. And somebody who wants to fuck you.
So he didn't initiate any physical.
There was no physical, there was no body language that indicated it was anything other than friend hangs and good conversations about, experiences.
But he is offering to pay and he is driving you.
It was very confusing for a long time. Yeah. And then one day after his show, and he unclipped the seatbelt and was like, hey, can we talk about something? And I was like, oh, sure. And he was, and I'm like shaking back and forth because I got to ask a question. I'm like, and he's so articulate. He's so articulate. So he's like, well, I just feel like it should be easy to get to know people. And it's been very easy to get to know you. And, I was just wondering if you wanted to maybe go on a, and in the middle of his being articulate, I'm like, are these friend hangs a regular or more? And he's just like, well, I wanted to find out. And then he laid a big hot smoochie on me, and it was we had a big kiss, and it was great. It was really great. And we started dating, and we're gonna move in together soon. Now that I said that. I haven't put in the application yet. Who knows? But we're definitely going to do that. But
that's super cute.
And how it kind of works in comedy, because we get together and we faced all of the challenges two people in this town could probably face. So we get together, and a month later after that, I got a television show opportunity. Oh, yeah. And it was
roast battle. Right?
I got on that roast battle. And he had done roast battle a lot in his career. He was actually one of the first people that was really good at it. Mm-hmm. And then he stopped to focus on other things comedically, as you do. That's a thing. You can learn a lot from roast battle. You don't have to live there. You can develop some tools. And
it's a time thing too.
It's a very time-consuming thing.
For one performance that lasts 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Children of Trauma is the perfect show to be a part of, because you get to pour yourself obsessively into a project, think only about that project and not your own problems or your fears. And then you do the project, and you either are incredibly validated or incredibly crushed. And then you get to have this big emotional release. It is absolutely perfect. That's why everybody who does the show is either nuts or Pat Barker. That's it.
Oh, that's the best summation I've ever heard of roast battle.
Yeah, it's really like there's a lot going on with the people who do that show.
There's stuff.
There's stuff, but it's a lot of fun, and it's cathartic, and it's fun, and it will teach you how to write it'll teach you how to write with word economy, which was the original reason why I started doing it. Girl, that shade. So true.
So much shade. I've been listening to the roast battles. I'm like, could you use more? Do you need the whole dictionary in these jokes? What is happening? Anyways, sorry, New York. I love it. You guys are great, but also tone it down. Economy, my bros.
They don't believe in that there. That is very interesting, because when I did the show, I went up against somebody from New York, and I watched the battles, and I'm just sitting there, and I was like, there's all the words. So I wrote a runner through my battle. For my first battle was against a New Yorker. I wrote a runner about how long his jokes were.
That's so fun.
And then I wrote deliberately very short jokes.
That's super
So
funny.
it was like a good contrast.
Yeah, so you're making fun of the way that he's battling because he's not getting those hits as quick as you are.
One of my favorite things about the game itself is the strategy of the game.
Yeah.
So you have to get to know that person. You get to you fall in love with that person. You get obsessed.
Totally.
Because you have to know everything about them.
Well, and it's it's hard too because you're like, I'm gonna rip you apart, but man, I admire you. You know,
I
like you're like,
and that's how it should be. It should be somebody you really, really admire. If
Totally.
you don't like that person as you get to know them further, then it's going to be an uncomfortable battle.
well, it can give you more empathy for a person too, because you
Absolutely.
hear about their whole struggle and where they come from and why they are what they are, and so you're like, oh shit.
And it makes their jokes about like what's wrong with you even funnier because you're like,
Totally.
It's more of it's the mean joke version of saying, me too.
Yeah, it totally is.
I understand.
Well, I think that's something that as women, especially, we don't always get to have in our relationships with other women.
Yeah.
It's like, especially as a woman, dudes are kind of too nice to me sometimes. Like they kind
Interesting.
of treat me with kid gloves because of what I look like.
Yeah.
And they don't give me a hard time enough. And like, I give people a hard time, but I probably don't give my female friends a hard time enough.
You know what's interesting is when you end up in a relationship, that dynamic will change. Because that did happen with me and Stuart too. Where it was like suddenly I had a boyfriend and all of my friends who were like a little kid gloves friends, like frenzy to me, suddenly they were a little rougher. And I was like, guys are nice to each other. Why am I friends with all these guys? Like they're not nice to me all of a sudden. It was like once there was no possibility of sex, like the dynamic did change like slightly.
Totally.
But and maybe not on a conscious level, but it was something that I noticed.
A lot of my closest friendships are with men who there might have been like a flirt thing, but then we just were friends and like we're brutally honest with each other. And it is really nice because I feel like as a person, I need people to kind of hold me accountable or to like call me on my shit.
Right.
Sometimes.
Well, you're experiencing a level of emotional intimacy with that person. It's sort of like a surrogate relationship at that juncture.
Totally.
Which can lead to some complications if there aren't solid boundaries.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Totally.
So we get that, and he has those feelings about that, right? So it's
like,
sort of,
oh, this is something I was good at, and you've only been doing it for a little bit, and there's a little bit of jealousy.
Yeah, and I'd done the shit out of it for like a year. It was like all I did.
Yeah,
and so that was sort of the first thing, and then I got very, very sick afterwards, and then we'd been together for like 8-9 months. He's 8 years younger than me too, by the way. Like snaps to that, by the way.
Get it, girl.
I know, right? It works in the way that most people think he's older because he's so proper that people think he's just like
he does have an
30.
Older sense.
I thought he was like 35 when I met him. I was like, he completely had me fooled.
I thought you guys were the same age for sure. I didn't
people don't really know it until, and also like if you're brown, wear sunscreen, no one will know how old you are until you're dead. Like
so
that's pretty much it. So that happens. Then I get sick, and we had to have like a serious conversation about like fertility, like immediately, because I was just like, you need to have that. He loves kids. I was like, you need to understand that this might not be an option for me. And if you want to not continue this relationship, I completely understand. Like a business decision. Of course, I'm bawling because I'm on so much hormone therapy. I can barely think straight.
Right.
But he was like, his response was just so perfect. He was like, being a mom doesn't mean you have to, there's not one way to be a mom. You can experience that in any way you want. And I know, right?
Oh, Stuart, you sweetheart.
Such a keeper. So sweet. And he just like rolled with those punches. And then
that's really sweet.
Another thing too is his family is, they're not perfect, but they're not my family, right? So there was that conversation. I'm sure you've had this happen in dating where somebody goes, tell me about your family. And I've learned to say the following thing, which is, you know what, I really, it's not that I always just say like, it's kind of a long story. So let's get to know each other a little better because I don't want you to judge me under that lens. Yeah. But totally. Yeah, I've done a lot of work. Just keep in mind that I've done a lot of work. But as we get to know each other, I'll tell you some of those things.
I will reveal the darkness eventually.
Exactly.
But you have to understand that there's like barriers, there's like locks, there's just like a lot going on that keeps that at bay. Yeah. And I've put a lot of work into building that fortress.
Yeah. And a person who is well balanced will respect you saying like, hey, like, I'll let you know over time. But at this point, trust me, you don't want to hear the whole story at once.
Right.
And he was really good with that. And then, he started to have some like interesting moves in his life. Like he quit his job at the Comedy Store and he moved on. He was a door guy for like 100 years or like 5-6 years. He was a door guy. He went directly from college to the Comedy Store. He went from Berkeley to the Comedy Store. So just think of how one is socialized that way. So
there's a lot of like super nerds that at the comedy, like Rich Slayton is another one.
Yeah.
Like just like super smart dudes that just are like, nah, fuck it. And they do the Comedy Store. I would say Mike Schmidt is like that too, of just like.
Well, his parents described it as it was his grad school. So if you want to be a comedian, you got to go to, and there's no grad school for comedy. You got to do a thing like that.
Living in LA for comedy is like going to college.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is. There's workshops and you're learning and you get
and it's
thrown
expensive.
Into all these things. So expensive.
And you're going to run up some debt and like
a little bit.
But it's okay to do that because that's how I'm sort of viewing where I'm at in my career now, which is like I'm doing more road work. I'm doing more festivals. I'm doing more stuff that gets me out of the city doing longer sets so I can develop a broader joke. Because for me, I've been since day one projecting toward that hour special. That's really how I think of it, is how does this work? How does this work in the thesis of what my first hour is going to look like? And so you can't do that in the city. You can't. You
Not
just
with
can't.
your 10-minute spots.
No. And you'll see that because I'll do road gigs with some gals. Sometimes I'll be on the road and I'll have people who don't usually leave the city. And you can tell. Because it's really, really hard because it's not, they're like great for 7 minutes and then things get weird. And it's no shade toward their comedy. It's just that it's
a practice thing.
If you asked me to run a marathon right now, I would be great for half a mile and then shit would get weird. It's the exact same thing. So it's just about practicing. And so he's gone through all those things and then, we communicate a lot. We do stuff outside of our relationship, which is important. And we've both learned that we can't always do comedy together all the time. So there's definitely, is she part of the studio or is that just like a rando?
It's the next thing. Yeah, we got to kind of wrap it up, unfortunately.
So so that's how it works. And we just communicate about it a lot. He dropped me off on the way here. Like, it's a,
do you guys have a Google document for your schedules?
I've heard that a couple of comics do that with their partners, actually.
Because that sounds really helpful.
That would be so
scheduling is really
helpful,
hard.
especially because we both have our day jobs are both like independent scheduling things too.
Okay.
And so
it's just like, I need to work at this time. Do you want to schedule? Like just having those conversations just about scheduling is. We almost didn't
end up a thing because our first date, God bless him, our first date. He told me, let's get together on Wednesday. And I was like, sure. So Wednesday rolls around 4:00. I am hairs, nail, makeup, fucking ready to go, like all dressed up. And at 9:30, he texts me, hey, I'm done with my spot at the store. Do you want to hang out? And I was like, no. And he goes, why? And I go, because you just wasted my whole fucking evening. And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, I'm a grown ass woman. I am a grown woman. If you want to date me, you need to schedule a place and a time, and you need to be specific.
Yeah, I feel that so hard. It annoys the shit out of me.
You want to hang out? And what ended up happening is as our relationship went on, because sometimes he'll kind of like, and he was like, I'm so sorry. I was like, you're lucky I like you. You're lucky that first kiss was good, because otherwise, no.
Well, that's the thing, though.
Kick rocks,
you guys
son.
had this whole foundation of friendship that spanning several months.
Yeah,
he helped.
He likes to get to know people.
I'm that way too. So like I'm trying to go on dates and I'm just like, I could take you or leave you, honestly. Most people I go on dates with, I'm like, I never saw you again, I'd really be fine.
It's such a weird interaction. Yeah. Dating, but
super weird.
But so we've learned that like he's learned that like if he's not specific about wanting to hang out with me, I'll be hanging out with my friends. I'll be doing other stuff. I'll be at mics. I'll be at shows.
Totally.
And he'll be like, hey, do you want to hang out? I'll be like, oh, I'm busy. Sorry. Schedule again later. And we'll figure it out. But we definitely take the time.
That's really nice because like I was in a relationship and it was like a long-term relationship where it got to a point where he kind of would just expect me to just hang out with him or vice versa. There was just like an expectation. And then I'd be like, well, I didn't know you were going to do this and you didn't tell me. So I was waiting for you. And
I would argue
for 5 years, like,
that's an immature relationship.
Totally.
Because you have to be able to have
to talk about it and be like, look, I have this time for you this week, but also I want to see my friends and I need to have relationships that are outside of us.
Yes.
So that I can have something to talk about when I see your face.
Yes. And it also helps to, if you're going to date a comic, they have to be okay with you doing, because you are doing well and you will continue to do well. Your career will continue to shoot forward as it should.
So nice.
And if anyone is intimidated by that in any way, they're not the one.
I agree.
They're just not. Because I'm so grateful. His mom is a super successful person, like quoted in Forbes magazine successful.
Oh.
Yeah, she kicks ass. And so he is unconsciously and consciously attracted to a boss ass bitch. That's what he likes.
Lucky for you.
I know. Nobody knew this about him. And now I'm just telling everybody else.
Laid the groundwork.
She laid the groundwork. And
for Anna V.
She really does. It'll be funny. We'll be having dinner and she'll look at me and she'll be like, she'll ask me a lot of questions about what the plan is as far as like success as a relationship.
Ooh,
because
tiger mom.
She's a tiger mom for sure.
Super hot.
Bay Area tiger mom. She's like, so like, what's going on with the career? What's going on? And how does Stuart fit into this? And like, if I ever get a show, I better write him into that pilot or I'm not going to be eating dinner with them at Christmas.
That's
like I
so
know
funny.
her. So it's a good balance. If whoever you're dating, find that balance. They have to respect you. You have to respect them. I have to respect him, because there's a part of me that wants to be like, oh, you're younger than me. You don't know what you're doing. But that's not true.
But you have to, he knows a lot of things that you don't know still.
Yeah.
His experiences are different.
Well, and also that he hasn't experienced a world where he's running in fear all the time. So he knows how to be a regular person.
Oh, wow. What a beautiful,
right?
What a beautiful gem to have in your life.
I know. He still watches the World Cup and is like a big soccer nerd, but he's got to have one flaw.
Totally. We have to get out of here.
We have to get out of here. I'm so sorry. I was late. It was my fault. Oh my God.
I hope you're okay.
The whole outside is banging around, but this has been wonderful.
This is so fun. I could talk with you all day. I feel like
I'll come back and I'll be on time. I'll be early.
Totally fine.
I promise.
I love talking with you so much, Anna.
We'll have to have you on my podcast too.
Brujaja podcast or the 12-step podcast?
12 Questions podcast, because you don't always have to be a 12-step person to be on it. You just have to be a person who can talk about their feelings.
Oh, I have so many feelings.
And then there's also the Brujaja podcast on the Unpops Network.
It's really good. I listened to an episode this morning about Puerto Rico, and I have to say, I just love, it's a really good podcast. I highly recommend it because you guys, not only are you like, do you have like a fun, loving vibe, but you're also like educational. I learned so much about Puerto Rico.
That was so funny. We had a serious conversation. I was like, listen, Latin America's on fire and we need to talk about it.
Yeah, it was really good.
And they were like, we're not that smart. I was like, I'm not that smart either, but let's see what we can do.
But you know what the internet does, and then you can say it into the microphone.
Yeah, and
nailed it.
From that point on, we decided to make it a little more education focused.
I like the education focus because you guys have such winning personalities that you're fun to listen to, but then you also are, I feel like I'm being educated. So I think you do a great job. So tell people where they can find you on the social media.
I don't check. Listen, again, a half hour. I give it a half hour a day, so I will tweet back at you at like 12 o'clock at night. It's at Anna V is fun on Twitter and Instagram. I promise you I'll be back on the gram someday because I truly enjoy it. But right now, Mama needs a break. And then you can also find me on Facebook. I have a website called it's AnnaValenzuela.com. You can get all of my show dates. I will be, I don't know when this comes out, but I will be doing on the 3rd of July, I'll be doing Roast Your Reps out in Phoenix, Arizona at the Crescent Ballroom.
You might not come out till August.
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
okay. Well, if it's in August, hit me up. I got show dates already lined up for there. So you can check all that out there.
Awesome. If you guys like this podcast, follow us on the social media at Andrea Loves Everybody on Instagram, at Andrea Loves Pod on Twitter. I don't really do
I
Twitter
get one
much.
of those cute pictures?
You totally do. Everyone gets
you're such a good, oh my God, I'm so excited. Ooh.
Yeah. And if you want to see me do stand-up or do things, follow me at Sundress Comic on all the things. And we're doing a super cool promotion right now. Rate and subscribe on iTunes. And when we get to 50 ratings or comment thing, whatever they're called, you leave a comment. I like it, whatever. I'll pick a person out of there. I'll draw a name out of a hat and someone gets a custom illustration of their cute face. So
how close are you to 50?
I have no idea. I have to look.
I'm going to rate and review tonight.
Well, you'll get one anyway, but
I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to do it because it's all about love. Because it's a really good thing. You should rate and review. Listen, if you're listening to this podcast, if you're in the podcast game, you know this, but and I know we got to go, but listen, here's what matters. iTunes ratings. iTunes ratings and iTunes downloads. I'm sorry, Google Play people, we love you. Spotify people, we love you. SoundCloud people, we love you. But what really, really matters, if you love a podcast, log into your iTunes, rate and review it, because that really makes the difference in downloads. And it's okay to be open about that. If you love this girl and this podcast brings you joy, go ahead and do it.
I love you so much. Thank you so much for coming.
You're the best. Thank you. Love you. Bye.